since you've been making such a moronic argument that I've been actually reading from the teleprompter, I'm going to install an exterior camera which could provide you with a bird's eye view type of over creeping viewpoint. It's like a view from nowhere. You're get to see that I'm not actually reading from any teleprompter. Needless to say, any type of transcripts or closed captioned, subtitles. There was no chance that I would ever read it. Let me actually show you. I don't really need to think about it. So this is really the main camera that I'm going to, a main phone that I'm going to use to listen to this Supreme Court case that I've never been on to. And I'm going to actually record, at the very moment, what's been actually happening to me, just like my eyes. There was no subtitle that might actually give me certain ideas. No closed caption to subtitles. Absolutely excluded from the scene. Excuse me, don't you not just feel that you're really kind of stupid moron who is definitely making lots of sort of views? I don't really need it. No, now finally came to my mind, I'm not actually reading from a teleprompter, and I found a way. No. Let me actually show you. The only thing that I'm doing is at this moment, and definitely if you ever actually see on the screen, on top of the screen, there is nothing that has been actually settled, and I'm going to place myself underneath it, and I'm going to let you actually watch what I'm actually doing, and there is nothing on the wall as of now. You probably see that this is really my schedule. There is not a single word in English. Everything is in German.
Go ahead, Jeff. Well, aside from the principle, and obviously the legal principles are very important, this is about the tax returns. Donald Trump has been talking about releasing his tax returns since he declared for president in 2015. He has hid these tax returns, unlike every presidential candidate since the 1970s. For now 5 years. And the question may be answered by this case, what's in the tax returns? And it may be answered quickly. Now, it may not be answered quickly, but the idea that the tax returns are now this close to being released is actually a very significant thing independent of the legal arguments.
Okay. So, you probably actually noticed that there is an open window. That means I can hear, my neighbors talking to each other, okay? Let me actually say what Jeff actually mentioned. Jeffrey Toobin just said that, no, don't try to actually cut it off. I'm actually more than happy to talk about the things that I've witnessed. Jeffrey Toobin just said that. Needless to talk about the, legal argument defining the presidential power and its limitations. This is simply about the tax returns. Ever since 2015, Donald Trump, when he actually, had declared his presidency, declared his intention for running for office, he already actually had promised that he is going to reveal everything about his financial records, and this has been part of the American tradition ever since the 1970s. There was no exception. Not a single soul of American presidents truly evaded this solemn obligation by not disclosing financial records except Donald Trump. He already had made that solemn promise on the moment when he actually set down his first foot for the presidential bid in 2015, and he said that he was going to do so when he actually finally got elected. That's what he said in 2017 later. Then he refused to do so even up until this moment, and he's a private lawyer, says that presidents should actually be protected and secluded from the law that might actually affect the rest of human beings on American soil equally, because during the operation and the lasting power secured by the presidential term, he must be treated somewhat specially by guaranteeing that he would be immune from any type of criminal investigation conducted against him. There should be a exculpability that at least that might actually assume his immunity, that he's not guilty, because there should be no possibility any type of litigations or criminal inquiries can be opened up on looking into his wrongdoings. For that reason, this should actually be at least temporarily suspended up until he would be removed from the office. That's what has been said. But what Jeffrey Toobin at this moment says that let's try to actually put aside all the legal debates or conundrums. because this is simply about the tax returns. How many, the presidents so far have evaded this type of simple obligation? Not a single soul ever since the 1970s. There is no exceptional case, even amongst his predecessors, who somehow had avoided this type of duty that was supposed to be the part of American institution and American tradition. Whenever there is a president who gets elected while he was president-elect, there must be certain type of revelation of the tax returns, or while he was actually running for the office or running for president, there must be a substantial disclosure to open about every ups and downs about his financial records. So far, the United States has no female president. That's really the reason why I say he's. Don't worry, this could actually have it so far. I don't know. But the thing is, yeah, Jeffrey Toobin actually mentioned that not just during his campaign, but even when he actually for the first time had revealed his presidential ambition in 2015, he already actually promised. He had a promise that he would actually reveal everything about his financial records, tax audits, and tax returns. But now, up until this moment, 5 years after that, still nothing had been done. It's really deceitful, because this is really part of a must-do, already followed and observed by all the rest of American predecessors and presidents. So this is really kind of laughable. I mean, this would actually incite much greater anxiety and questions and doubts about his financial stability, as well as honesty and transparency. What's really inside this tax returns? Why would he refuse to do so? Maybe he already had conducted his business in a very disrupted and illegal way. That's really the reason he would never cooperate with the legal authorities by actually simply fulfilling this tax disclosure and a revelation obligation, which is really a very simple thing that he could have done by resorting to his own accountant, right? If he ever has his own accountant, definitely for sure, because he is operating a global corporation. So that's not a big deal. But given the fact that he could have easily published these simple documents, but he's still delaying it. This is really ridiculous. There must be something hideous about these records. Maybe this type of refusal generally reflects certain type of immorality or dishonesty conducted by him when it comes to operating his business. Maybe. Excuse me, I just really feel awkward. I didn't actually realize that there was a suspicion that I was reading from a teleprompter, because I was very convinced that you can actually watch me using an infrared light, or actually, whatever thermal action detecting camera. I thought that you could easily watch every step and movement of mine. So I was very shocked to realize that you had a suspicion that I was reading from a teleprompter. I'm really empty-handed. I'm not reading from anything. I don't really want to expose myself in front of the camera. That's really the reason I decided not to actually, get me filmed. Because I never actually wanted to see anything that might actually reveal my own appearance. I have no obligation to reveal myself vulnerably in front of the camera, right? So, you probably actually notice that everything is, totally honest. There is nothing that I'm reading from. This is really the memo that I actually just took by listening to this video clip that I have never visited. Let's try to actually do this once more if you don't mind. You can actually see me, right? Let's try to actually do this once more. You want to see it?
How it all went today. And the fact, Jeffrey, that this case, which is so consequential, but that the oral arguments are happening in a way that they have never have before. What impact do you think, do you think the impact of just the structure, that the justices they're not able to talk to each other, they're not able to see each other, just the way it had to be conducted, do you think it impacts it?
To be honest, I don't think it really will matter that much in the outcome. As someone who has followed the Supreme Court for a long time, it's a very weird experience to hear the court this way. Just one oddity of all this is I think many people know that Clarence Thomas in the courtroom, goes years without answering questions. In the telephone arguments, where the justices the time. Clarence Thomas is asking lots of questions. I don't know why such a big distinction between telephone arguments and real life arguments, but it's just a big difference. Does that matter in the outcome? I doubt it, but it's still...
Okay, the question itself is, under the corona setting, there are many different exceptional cases that affect the procedural developing on the floor of the Supreme Court. This is something that has never experienced before and totally unprecedented. Why is it so? No justices are allowed to talk to each other. They're not actually in interaction. They should actually, remain completely distanced from each other while maintaining the, complete, chasm between them. Try not to actually, get into interaction with each other or communication with each other, and that they're actually using a telephone to answer each other or question each other. This type of setting is completely unusual from the perspective of Jeffrey Toobin, who had a deep history of following everything happening at the Supreme Court. Yeah, he's been an expert concerning the legal studies per se. So he actually, has mentioned that he has a deep understanding about the procedural aspects of the Supreme Court by following the ups and downs of the U.S. Supreme Court. He has a very deep understanding about the cut and thrust of the U.S. legal history as well as the actual proceedings, right? But the problem is this is something that has never been experienced. But he does not actually believe that there will be, a great significance that might actually, reshape or morph the general nature of the Supreme Court decision into something other than what it is normally expected in normalcy. There will not be much difference. Whether that would be in time of the corona crisis, by keeping all the different distinguishable rules, that would never be part of the Supreme Court, or even, the regular proceedings on floor with no restrictions on their mobility or interactions, right? One particular, oddity that has been just observed is, Clarence Thomas. You remember this African American justice who would normally remain really taciturn, who would be reticent. He would never actually, specifically mention a lot of things by posing constant questions in row. What's been so particular about this, special setting at the Supreme Court as, Clarence Thomas's frequent questions, when he is really actually using a telephone to frequent his questions. That's something very unusual from his perspective, his vantage point. Clarence Thomas was not the kind of person who would normally really talk to his colleagues during the session by actually, having multiple questions to actually, challenge his colleagues or formal justices. What I mean is, he's definitely interacting or communicating or communing with his colleagues. But the thing is, during the hearing, he's not really the person who would really like to come forward to reveal his presence throughout the entire Supreme Court's annual session. No, he's not that kind of person. But he doesn't really understand what makes this type of distinction using a telephone argument or, a general argument. He would actually have a significant disparity in his enthusiasm, probably. But the thing is, the most important critical aspect here is there will not be a significant difference that would change the course of the development here. Certainly, we cannot actually expect to have a consequential impact on the final verdict given by the Supreme Court, the final decision made by these justices. Yeah. I mean, that's what has been said. What has been actually mentioned, the procedural, instructions that were likely to be affected by a seasonal fluke, which is the COVID-19 and the coronavirus emergency, but they were likely to be truly temporary to have impact on the pro forma instructions. This is really about the formal settings that were not likely to affect the actual conditions deep down. That means this would have a minimal impact on the crux of the kernel of the matter by redirecting the Supreme Court's final decision on the issue, right? He at least, anticipates that this will not change the venue of it. But definitely President Donald Trump, spent a lot of time following every issue happening from the Supreme Court because this is really relevant to him. For whatever reason, he's been very reluctant to disclose his financial history. And that's really interesting. Many of the very critical documents are not being unveiled and showcased. And people are pounding on the door. Why, in the first place, you're not actually following the custom that has already been beautifully observed and respected by all different, presidents ahead of you as your predecessors? Don't you not actually think that you should actually conform to that tradition that has been actually part of the American presidency since the 1970s? That's what has been said. Excuse me, I'm not actually looking into anything. I'm actually sick and tired of dealing with this kind of, absurdity. Tell the truth. If you really have any idea whether I would actually, conduct my own operation unbound by anything, then why can't you not actually, realize that I'm not reading from any given sentences? I had written down, certain things while I was listening to it as a part of a note. Is note-taking forbidden here?